Hey guys, how you doing today? I'm going to be doing one of St. Patrick's Day recipe. And everybody does it around St. Patrick's Day. I eat it all year long. What we're going to be making is we're going to be making corned beef and cabbage. It's real simple. It's basically just throw everything right in your crock pot and let it cook. So, let me get you down here, and there you go. You see what we have. It's nothing, overwhelming. It's literally just 3-4 ingredients. So, first thing we want to do is get our corned beef opened up. So I need a knife for that. So, I'm just going to poke a little hole in the top, so that way I can pull it up and get some air out of this, because I'm going to I rinse all the corning off of it, all this like gelatin stuff. It's the spices that they use to make corned beef. I rinse that off. I know some people do, some people don't. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but I rinse it off. There's a lot of salt in it, and for me with my blood pressure, I make sure that I get as much of that off as possible. The reason that I open it like this is because now I can take this right over to the sink and rinse it out and it not really be a big mess for me. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse that off, and when I come back, you'll see what it looks like. Alright, we're back now. Like I said, we just rinse it off because it's pretty salty meat as it is. So almost all of them come with this little packet. This packet is the seasonings that go in it for when you boil it. And I just use a little spice ball. So go ahead and slide that off to the side. We'll get our spice ball in here. I've forgotten this a few times, so I like to do this first, because if not, you basically just have like meat water. So let's try and pour this in here without making a mess. Basically it's cumin, coriander, peppercorns. That's really about it, honestly. So some spice balls you just clip together. This one has a little wire on it, and what you do is this other side, you can see that there's a little pin that sticks up. We just put that through there, and then we lock it. So now we have a way of picking it up and getting it out of our, if you're using it for soups, stews, or in this case, corned beef and cabbage. So I have 2 heads of cabbage. I'm not sure if I'm going to use both right away. Depends on if they fit in my crock pot. But what you can do is you can cook it down a little bit and then add more cabbage on top, because this is going to be cooking for 6 or 8 hours. So the other thing is, depending on if you like fat or not, I normally leave some of it on there, but not this much, because it tends to get greasy. So let me grab my knife and we'll skim some of that off. So basically what we're going to do it in kind of like a filleting type thing. Like I said, I don't take all of it off. I will get a lot of it off though. Like a little bit like that isn't a problem. So we just set that off to the side. We don't use that. That just gets thrown in the trash. So one thing that I like to do with my corned beef is I break it down into smaller pieces so it cooks a little bit easier. And later when you stir it up, you want to make sure that, it's kind of hard to stir up this huge chunk of meat. So I'm just going to part this out a little bit and it's probably only going to be like these, like 4 pieces right here. So there you go. So we just break them down. Now we set that off to the side. So now some people like to put the corned beef on the bottom because your crock pot will brown it a little bit. Some people put it on the top. Some people mix it in layers. I just throw it on the top at the end. But like this big piece here, I'm going to put this in the bottom. I've already had my crock pot going, warming up. So I'm just going to pop that one right in the bottom. Slide these off to the side. Now we want to cut up our cabbage. We want to make sure that we get the cores out of them. So, and I normally take the one layer of leaves off the outside just because, you know, they get a little bit banged up when they're being harvested, and so I normally take that off. Now, like, I'm going to be using a cleaver. You don't have to. It's just, you know, since my shoulder surgery, I kind of can't really hold that well. So we're going to go right through the middle. And now we want to get out these cores that are in here. So I'm just going to take my little paring knife and I'm just going to cut right down on the sides here. And then right here at the top, I'm also going to cut down on about the same angle. And there you go, pops out. If you miss a little, you can go back and cut that out, which is what I'm going to do. Alright, so there we go. That's all cut out now. And now I'm just going to rough chop these up, and then these go right in the pot. I break them up a little bit, not a whole lot. I'll show you with the next one how much I break them up. And you can also just cut all the way back, and then where your knife intersects in the back, that can be good enough too to get out these cores. So, like, as you can see, that whole core came out with no issue. Now, like I said, I just kind of break them down, and then I kind of just break them down into a couple of, I don't break them down into individual leaves. We want to make sure that these keep texture as the meat's cooking. So we just roughly break them up, throw that in the pot. So this is where I'm going to just drop my spice ball in. Let me take you guys over and show you what we got. There we go. It's basically just a pot full of cabbage. Got my spice ball in there. We're going to add a little bit of water to the end of this, just so that way it helps the cooking process and it helps steam the cabbage. So as you can see, I didn't really have much room for any more cabbage. So now I'm just going to take my corned beef, pop these right up on top. And let me get some water in there, and I'll be back in a second. There we go. And remember, I said we were going to add a little bit of water to it. So it all depends on the size of your crock pot. I just have some basic tap water here. It's probably going to be about 3 cups or so. I used about 4 cups. And basically what that does is it puts water in the bottom. It'll help get the cabbage breaking down, and then that'll settle. And then it also helps steam the rest of the food. One of the things that I like to do is put the meat on top, because all the flavor from the meat and the fat and everything goes down into the cabbage. And you know, that's one of the things that I really like about corned beef and cabbage is that, I mean, just the flavor that you get in the broth at the end. Because when I'm done, I'm going to make probably mashed potatoes and put this over mashed potatoes. And let's see, and get a little bit more cabbage over here. Pop some in there, Alright, now we just lit it. And you can see it's sticking up a little bit. That's not going to matter too much because after probably about 20 minutes, this is all going to rest down. That little fit fine. Right now I have it on high to get everything heated up. And then I'll probably drop it down to low for probably about 6 or 8 hours. And then I guess we'll see you guys back when I do something to it, which will probably be in about 4 hours. So see you then. Over the past 4 or 5 hours, I've just been going in and moving things away from the sides. You know, making sure that the meat is fully submerged. And that's really about it. I had to add a little bit more fluid because up along the sides, probably about 3/4 of the way up, it started to like brown and burn the cabbage a little bit. So I had a little bit more fluid. So I've had this on low now for about 5 hours now. So let's see what we got. Here's a piece of it, and you can see we can pull it apart nice and easy. So right at the end, what I'll do now is I'll switch my crock pot over to keep warm. It's like a serving temperature. So what I like to do is put some red onions in the top of it. You know, some pretty thinly sliced red onions. I like the red onion in this. It holds up to the bolder flavor of the brisket and the cabbage. It also pairs really well. Once these cook and they soften up, it's going to go really well on top, because I'm going to be putting this on top of mashed potatoes. Either mashed potatoes or baked potatoes, or you know, something like that. Seen some areas that need a little bit more onion. I kind of cover the top. Alright guys, I guess I'll bring you back when we're all done. And we'll see what it looks like when we plate it. There we go. And let's try not to foggy out this time. There we go. Set that off to the side. You can see how the onions got real nice and soft in there. So we're ready to go. You can do it two ways. You can either take, I ended up making baked potatoes. You can either half them and open them up, or what I'm going to do, I'm going to slice them down. So I'm going to slice them and put a layer on the bottom of the plate, and then I'm going to put all this goodness on top. Alright, here we are. Let's just take them off of there. The only thing I'm going to cut these down into probably about 4 slices. So I'll probably do this one this way. I don't know how much you guys eat this kind of food, but I love potatoes with sauerkraut, corned beef, potatoes and mustard. I mean, all that kind of food is really something that I like. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this and just, let's move that out of the way. I'm going to take this and we're just going to lay out the potatoes. There you go. We have our potatoes laid out. Alright, now first thing we want to do is The reason we cut this down into chunks is this will be probably about a serving. So I'm just going to put that piece right across the middle of our potatoes. I'm not going to drain everything off of it. Want to make sure you get some of them onions in there. Yeah. There you go. I want a little bit more onion with that. And I know it doesn't look all that appealing, but oh my god, it is so good. And as you can tell, I can just push right in and I can break the meat right apart. So that's how I like to have it. I'll probably put a little bit of mustard on the side, some whole grain mustard, and I'm good to go. So if you guys like this video, make sure that you comment. If you do it different than what I do, make sure you comment in the way that you guys do it. If there is something else that you would like to see from this kind or this style of food, let me know. And don't forget, if you're coming here for the first time, like the video and subscribe. And I hope you guys enjoyed. And have a nice day, guys. Keep cooking.